Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar on influencing team unity among your peers. I'm Kim Molinitz, Director of the Air Force Negotiation and Dispute Resolution Program, and I'm happy to welcome you to this webinar. So often the way our contributions support the mission of the Air Force is through our work as a member of a team. Sometimes this is a part of a formal initiative with established goals and a leadership hierarchy. Often, and perhaps more often, we work with our peers from other branches or divisions, all of us bringing our unique talent, expertise, or perspective to a common objective. The beauty of a matrix-structured working group is that we have flexibility to design the process and to learn from and inspire each other. The challenge is to find our way with only the barest of structures and often countervailing pressures. In today's webinar, we want to explore how each of us can influence and support our peers to achieve those shared objectives. I'm joined today by my colleague, Diane Canzano. Di is an attorney with the Air Force Negotiation and Dispute Resolution Program. She has 30 years of experience as an attorney with the federal government and has a master's degree in social work. Di, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Kim, and hello to all. Kim has laid out for you where we want to go today, and I would like to tell you about some of the territory that we will cover. Our pathway is influence. We have all served on a work group or a team that was disorganized, unproductive, or frustrating. Perhaps you may have felt your time and talents on a team were being wasted, and that there was little you could do about it. In this webinar, we will help you see that even though you may have no authority over others on the team, you can nonetheless influence your peers and improve the team's outcome. We would like to focus on 3 elements of group dynamics where your influence can make a big difference. First, task accomplishments. Second, team culture, which really breaks down to the social and emotional needs of the team. And third, how you can influence behaviors that may be disruptive or even damaging to your purpose or to your team members. You will learn techniques for influencing a structure to build trust and encourage your peers to fully participate. You will learn how to leverage your personal style to influence your peers and model team norms. And you will learn tools and techniques for encouraging respectful but honest discussion and for managing difficult behaviors. You'll also have the chance to learn from your peers here today, as well as some of the earlier webinar participants. So let's get started. So, there are many factors that affect our ability to achieve our mission. A structured process and how we share information are 2 particularly important ones when we work with our peers toward that mission. A team that is well positioned to achieve its mission is one that is clear about its goals, that is clear about the tasks needed to reach its goals, and that has a plan for how to get there, and finally, a consensus on all 3 of these elements. You're one among many. So how do you help your peers get organized? As an opening to this section, let me set the stage and introduce you to KC and Sergeant Lucero. They are members of an organizational climate team. We'll come back to this scenario several times during the webinar. As you listen to the conversation, share with us some of what you have learned about how the team is working or anything you notice about how KC is beginning to influence the team.
The commander and his leadership team convened the organizational climate team after the command received the results of the most recent DEOCS. The team is charged with making recommendations that can be acted upon within the current survey cycle. It's also expected to continue beyond that point to support implementation and future recommendations. From its first 6 months, the group has little to show for their time. Casey is a new member of the team, and our story picks up right after her first meeting.
Hi, Sergeant Lucero, is it?
Hi, yes, you must be Casey. We're really glad you're here. We've lost a few people and need the bodies. You may have heard we're getting pressure to put something on paper for the command.
Yeah, what's that about? It seems like there are some easy gains, in my read of the survey anyway.
You'd think so, but we can't get it together to make a decision. Some people feel strongly that we need to do listening sessions. Just more data to sort through.
You mean like Mariah, is that her name? She was pretty hot about it.
You got it. I'm kind of caught up in it too. Some of us are frustrated and think we know what needs to be done and want to start drafting. Others think we need to do more digging. We're pretty stuck, in fact. That's why we've lost a few people and others have stopped showing up.
Ouch. Well, let's get on it. When's the next meeting? Can we take a poll, see where we are, and then get everyone to report on the information they have to date? That way we can make adjustments and set a timetable for our vote. How do you think that would work?
Hey, I'm with you, but it's a little like herding cats. How do you think we can get everyone on board?
Let's ask them. They have as much to gain or lose as we do. For me, it's about getting organized and keeping in touch. If we can juice things up, maybe we can get some of those lost members back, even get Mariah on board.
Let's do it. I should warn you, though, we have some saboteurs in our midst.
We're getting some good comments here. Kim, would you like to share some of what you're seeing?
Sure, let me see. We have a comment from Tech Sergeant Conyers. I like this Casey. She's going to whip them into shape. Melina adds, that's right. She wants to get things organized. When's the next meeting? Can we take a poll?
Casey is definitely jumping in with a lot of ideas. Does anyone want to comment about the way she's doing it?
I have something here from Donovan who says, she seems to be testing her ideas on Lucero. She's saying, can we? And would that work? And Melina sees another point. She says that KC is staying out of the fray, not biting on the cats and saboteurs language, just moving ahead with confidence in the process. It looks like you've touched on some pretty important points. They're good lead-ins to talking more about a structured process and how you can use structure to benefit the group.
When we talk about a structured group process, we are referring to the 5 areas you see on the slide. First, getting things going may be proposing tasks or goals, defining problems, and suggesting procedures for a solution. Even though KC is proposing action, she is also leaving the space for others to shape the direction she proposes. Second, seeking and sharing information is both a what and a how consideration. What information needs to be part of the discussion, and how will the team discuss and debate their information and make decisions? Persuading peers to make the consideration is the challenge. KC suggests that they get information on the table by having members provide updates and then collectively deciding on next steps. She's also proposing her approach, testing it out so others can shape it. Third, clarifying ideas is both a process and a technique. It's a process, leaving room on the agenda for discussion, and a technique, clarifying by asking questions, giving examples, and inviting debate. For example, KC's let's ask them. Fourth, bringing closure means recapping key points and specifying next steps. It's a great way to reinforce what has been accomplished, to enlist volunteers, and to clarify what happens between the meetings. Before your meeting breaks up, try something like, I just want to run through what we've done and to be sure I know what's next. Fifth, decision making. If you're not clear or don't think everyone is clear on how the group will make decisions, this is a great place to practice open-ended questions. For example, how are we going to decide what we'll present to the leadership? Or, if you're new to the group, what method have you been using to make a decision about whether the team is using a consensus basis or majority vote or something else? You can also ask, what kind of schedule are we on for our decisions? From what you have observed from the scenario, what challenges do you think KC is going to face at the next meeting?
Oh, we're getting a lot of responses to your question, Di, and some good feedback and some great back and forth. Let me read off some of what I'm seeing. From Tech Sergeant Conyers, no one knows her, she's going to get pushback. Donovan says, maybe, but some people are going to be happy to have a roadmap. Okay, those are two different possibilities. Let's see what else. Sergeant Vinsky is adding, I agree with Conyers. Folks in Mariah's camp are going to resist. And it looks like Donovan's back with, that's true, but KC seems to have a positive outlook and is open to others, so it might work if she can gain their trust. Oh, Angela's homing in on the trust topic. That's a really good point, she says. It seems like there may be some trust issues already among the team members, so KC may start off with that challenge. And Donovan seems to be asking, how can one team member build trust in a group when it's already broken? Donovan, I'm so glad you asked that. That's just where we want to go next. The phrase we use for this section, team culture, is really a way to introduce the importance of social and emotional needs on the success of our teams. Influencing the cultural needs of team members contributes in subtle ways, but it's as important to your success as the expertise of the members and the efficiency of the group's processes. When members feel supported by the team, they follow through on commitments. They're good wingmen to one another, and they feel free to engage with each other in an open exchange of ideas. Trust and support of one another are two conditions that distinguish a team from a group. Trust and support can be built into the group's structured processes. For example, build in ways for new members to get to know other members of the team. When a new member joins, introduce yourself and initiate a quick spin around the members present so the new member can know who's there and what role they play. We talk a lot about norms, and for good reason. They provide the framework that everyone can rely on. They build trust and encourage dialogue. If you're concerned that the team is showing signs of distrust or dialogue is not flowing openly and productively, this can be a good time to reflect back on a norm or to just ask the question, why are we having trouble having this discussion? As people gather for the meeting, ask a question to invite people to share what's going on for them, or perhaps something they've all shared, like participating in a command-wide social event. If you're not comfortable initiating the question, find an ally in the group on the team, and perhaps you can propose it together. Finally, help structure some way for team members to stay connected between meetings. In our scenario, when Sergeant Lucero had the floor, he could have welcomed KC, given her a chance to introduce herself, and asked others to do the same. This would have taken a few minutes, but it would have also eased the way for KC to establish herself and to make it more natural for her to share her thoughts with the group in the next meeting. So let's have a little discussion about this. Which of the following statements reflects your initial impression of KC? 1, you were energized by her style and think she's going to get the team moving. 2, you were interested in her ideas but cautious about how she plans to take over the team meetings. Or 3, you think she's going to disrupt everything and set the team back.
Sergeant Vinsky is picking up on the group's need to get going, and he likes her ideas. Rachel says, it's never going to work. Too many people are stuck, need to move more slowly. Rachel raises an important point. People will only move as fast as they'll move. Sometimes you have to help them ease into it a bit. Let's see what else. Tech Sergeant Conyers says, "No way. We're working pretty well, and I don't need somebody who doesn't even know us changing everything." And Donovan says, "I agree sort of, but maybe it's all three options. I'm more like number one, energized. But it's also true, if we move too fast, people who feel like Mariah could react."
Your comments illustrate our point. Even though Casey seems to be pretty affable and capable of working with different people, her style may not fit with the needs of the group, at least not at this point. Some people may not respond to her in the same way that Sergeant Lucero did. It's important to Casey's ability to influence the team that she shows that she understands that. Personality and communication styles are key factors in how effective we are in establishing trust and to contributing to the social and emotional needs of the group, or as we've been calling it, the group's culture. Our success relies on our ability to adapt our own styles and exercise certain skills and techniques. Let's talk for a few minutes about personal communication style. We all have a style that is most natural for us. While it is our default for many situations, over the course of our lifetime and careers, we get pretty good at using a variety of styles to best meet the needs of the moment. It's helpful to be aware of our go-to styles because it has a strong gravitational pull on us, especially when we're under stress. You've probably taken some kind of personality inventory. For our purposes today, I want to just lightly touch on a simple one called social styles to help us understand how awareness of personality types can help build trust and encourage open dialogue. The social styles model introduces 4 styles. First, the analytical style, which you will see from the slide is most comfortable working in the realm of facts and data. They act cautiously, and they are typically not as drawn to social engagements as others. Second is the driving style. These folks tend to take charge, act decisively, and thrive on challenge. Third are those with more of an expressive style, and they act with a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and they typically like to share ideas. And fourth, those in the amiable style. This quadrant cooperates, provides support, and communicates trust. Now, it's important to understand that most everyone has a combination of these characteristics, but this and other personality theories support the notion that we have a dominant preference for one or another of these. What we do with this knowledge is what is important.
It seems pretty clear that KC is a driver with expressive qualities as well. She seems to know how to get things done and is very enthusiastic about it. Those characteristics are often associated with influence and leadership. This combination is well understood, and there are plenty of examples of people from across the spectrum of personal styles who are exceptional and influential leaders. When it comes to exercising influence as a co-equal member of a team, it means knowing something about your style and using it effectively, knowing how your style relates to the styles of others, and developing the awareness, skills, and techniques to accommodate other styles. Going back to KC, she demonstrates that she knows she's a driver and she has a lot of confidence in her ability to organize and get things done. She puts that to immediate use as she sees the need for some energy and organizing in the organizational climate team. How well she adapts to others? Well, we don't know yet. But what does Casey know of the other styles among her peers? It seems not very much yet. And we've already talked about how she could get pushback from some of the members of the team, even without knowing too much about the others. What skills do you think Casey is going to need in order to connect and influence her peers?
Angela cautions Casey to take a breath, learn to slow down so she can understand what's going on. Donovan says she seems to want to get ideas from others, but I wonder if she'll really give them a chance. Will she actually listen? Tech Sergeant Conyers sees Mariah as the test. He says to influence Mariah, we'll need to pay attention to her style. And Sergeant Vinsky agrees that winning over Mariah is going to be the test.
The very things you're picking up on are the exact things that are particularly hard for someone like KC. As the sergeant said, it would be hard for KC, or at least it won't come naturally, to adjust herself to the tempo of the group. If she wants to win over her peers, she needs not only to listen, but to value what she hears from others, and then to accommodate them. If she just listens and then plows ahead with her plan, she'll not only lose the possibility of influencing Mariah, but it could affect even those on the team who agree with KC. On the other hand, if KC shows a genuine willingness to do the tough things, to take the time to get in step with others, to listen and adjust, she will have an impact on her peers and help build consensus toward a better outcome. Her commitment will demonstrate not only to Mariah, but to the whole team that she is committed to them as well as their goals.
So let's learn a little bit about some of the other team members, as shared with us by their peers. As you listen, we'd like to know what you think about how they can support their peers and where they may feel challenged.
Sergeant Lucero works really hard, and he's so organized. He really stepped up when we got started. He sent out a poll to get us to agree on when and how to meet and prepares our agendas. He likes to get things done and checked off the list.
Mariah is a tough sell. She's all about the numbers. If she doesn't have the numbers, it's hard for her to see how there could be any other rationale for acting. But she's working on it.
Tech Sergeant Sanchez is a real team player. He keeps us moving, but he wants to be sure everyone who wants to speak has a chance to do so. He's pretty creative in how he does it, too.
Sergeant Mooney's a numbers person, too, but seems to know we're talking about people. He's good at reading between the numbers and gives us some good ways to think about them.
Josie brings such great energy to the team. She knows everyone and their kids. When the command announced this team, she pushed to get on it and brought brownies to the first meeting. I'm not sure how persuasive she'll be in her recommendations. Good ideas, but, pie in the sky.
Let's take a look at some of your comments. Sergeant Vinsky says, I really identify with Mariah. People depend on me because I have the data. I guess that makes Mariah analytical, right? And Angela says, Josie really sounds like a combination. Expressive for sure, and maybe amiable. I'd like to hear from you on what you think Josie will be challenged by. All right, Angela's getting right back on this. I think she could be pretty overwhelming to others and maybe frustrating for those trying to build their case. Tech Sergeant Conyers is jumping in on this too. He says that's right. If she wants to help us, she needs to focus more on the substance. Okay, and Donovan seems to be interested in Sergeant Mooney. He says he's also an analytical, but seems to have amiable qualities, or maybe expressive. Seems like he's already adapting and using some kind of skills to help others tell a story from the data. Rachel points out that Lucero is definitely amiable. We need a Lucero on all teams, but Lucero's tendency to want to check things off the list could mean he makes it hard to change direction or even take time to talk about change. Thanks everyone for that good discussion. I think you can see that all styles can influence the strength of the team. In fact, ideally you'd have all styles represented on your teams. All styles have their strengths and each have potentially some weaknesses to pay attention to. Drivers have a tendency not to listen or show they value other opinions. Expressives can get so entranced by ideas that they lose people who need substance behind those ideas. Amiables can find it difficult to stand their ground or make a decision. So Sergeant Lucero seemed to have a combination of amiable and maybe analytical in his style. And analytical types can focus too narrowly on the facts, and they have a hard time showing appreciation for creative efforts and sharing information. Exploring your style helps you figure out where you naturally work best and what more you may need to do to be as fully supportive of your peers and others as you can be. Many of you have likely taken a Myers-Briggs, a DISC, or some other type of assessment. These are more complex inventories and give you more insights than we could do here in this webinar. But just as you did with this exercise with the team, you can practice identifying styles of your peers, and you can stretch and strengthen your skills that allow you to be influential with a range of different styles and personality types.
Before moving on, I would like to spend a few minutes talking about techniques you can use to support your peers in actively participating in discussion. If you can do this, you will also be helping to ensure that everyone feels their insights, perspectives, and ideas are important for the group to hear. We're accustomed to working together in leaderless teams. Most of us don't need to be reminded how to behave. Even so, having some discussion as the team forms about how you will work together sets a framework you all can rely on. It's a structure for trust. Beyond logistical norms of behavior like attendance and use of cell phones, getting input from everyone on how you want to conduct your discussions is an expression of team values. That is, listening without interruption, encouraging divergent points of view, and respecting differences. These types of behaviors are particularly important to balancing input from people who are more assertive and confident in speaking in a group with the comments of those who are less comfortable expressing themselves in this venue. This type of discussion about discussions is also appropriate for your team in deciding how you will make decisions. That is, for example, will you decide by majority vote? Will you decide by consensus? How will you decide when there is an impasse?
There are many ways you can support your peers and the team as a whole. So consider facilitation techniques you can use to expand the breadth of views and improve the discussion. For example, you can ask questions like, how do you think we can get the most people to contribute to the discussion? Or what conditions do you think will limit participation? You can try to hold space for thoughtful responses, or ask who else has a comment and then wait that 10 or 20 seconds. You could potentially break into smaller groups where appropriate, or use round robins, meaning going around the table and giving each person a chance to speak. Try asking for acknowledgement of what was just said before moving on. Or if you're uncomfortable doing the speaking yourself, you can invite someone who's an ally, perhaps saying something like, who can support at least a part of what you've just heard. You can invite comments away from the table by saying something like, if you have any other comments that we didn't have time for today on fill in the particular topic, please feel free to email me or stop by to see me. And keep in mind that you may have to learn some techniques to manage disagreements at the table. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about managing disagreements in a few minutes, but let's listen to another portion of the team's meeting. See how many of these techniques you hear.
Casey, this has been a good process for us. So thank you, Casey. It's been helpful for us to think about what we need to do in order to be able to move forward with recommendations. I, for one, am clear now about a good process for us. But I'm still uncomfortable. I think I speak for some others when I say that we need to catch up with you or have you catch up with us. Defining a process is one thing. Being ready to move on it is another. I'd like to hear from Mariah and maybe a couple of others. What do you think?
We're not ready. I'm a numbers person, and we don't have the data. If we go forward with recommendations without the data, our work will just sit on a shelf. This team is just like everything else. Hurry up and produce, even if it's worthless information.
Josie, what do you think?
Excuse me just a second, Sergeant Lucero and Josie. Before we move on, I wonder if there's anyone else who wants to comment on Mariah's point or some part of it.
Yeah, good idea. Who else is concerned that what we have so far won't cut it with the leadership?
Anyone?
I don't completely agree, but I see her point. My question is, if we figured out how we wanted to present our findings, you think we could present what we have more convincingly?
No, I don't think we have enough.
Hey, Mariah, we've been working together to get the data we do have. I wonder if you'd try something. Would you be willing to try to make Sergeant Mooney's case? Maybe you could prepare something for us to look at. Maybe plug those numbers into the template we created and see what it looks like.
Who else would like to make Sergeant Mooney's case? We could hear from you all at the next meeting and see if we can find a way forward we can all be okay with.
Tech Sergeant Sanchez, what do you think?
Let's try it. I mean, if you can make time, Mariah. It would be a big help. We need to try something. We never had the chance when the team was formed to get to know each other. We come from very different experiences, and I sometimes think we're not speaking the same language.
Agreed. My opinions are automatically ignored.
And that makes no sense, because Mariah has the strongest technical background of any of us.
Let's see, does anyone have a comment or question about the team meeting? Here's something from Donovan. Asking, everyone on this team brought something to the table to support the discussion. I've experienced something like this before. It was a really satisfying experience. But can you still influence your peers if most of the members are not so unified?
That's a great question, Donovan, because it's pretty rare to have such an ideal experience as we used here to illustrate the points in the webinar. The answer is simply yes, and it's the reason for this webinar. In the case example, you saw Sergeant Sanchez model behavior where he made room for dissenting views from Mariah. It helped to draw her out, and rather than ignoring her concerns, he helped broaden the support for parts of her concern that his peers needed to consider. This will end up bringing more information for the team to consider overall. And did you notice his influence? Mariah, who's been described as the most difficult of the team members, she looks to Sergeant Sanchez for a nod on the idea. It won't always work, but you have as much of a role as anyone to set the tone and model the behaviors. You can influence your peers, affect the meeting, and clear a path for the team to work more effectively. I'm going to turn the mic over to Di now, who will take us into a discussion of member behaviors that are damaging to the team or to individual team members. Di?
Yes, that's a really important point about how your behavior can influence others. It's like showing them a picture of how they too could look and deal with whatever is causing their behavior. In this section, we'll talk about specifically the kinds of behaviors that affect individuals in meetings. These may include strong disagreement with strong emotions to match, dismissive or inappropriate behaviors towards one or more members of the team, and hostile or threatening behaviors. Also in this section, we're going to get right into skills and techniques. So let's start with strong disagreement. Disagreements are part of an open exchange of ideas. When people feel strongly about an opinion or an idea, they may identify with it, and emotion can overtake their presentation. Our objectives in those situations are to stay open to their argument and to maintain a respectful relationship. Here are a few techniques you can use to disarm strong emotion around a disagreement, starting with not reacting. Keeping calm, not taking the bait, may diffuse the situation by itself and, at a minimum, would not make it worse. Beyond this, there are 4 techniques to manage strong disagreement. First, draw out your peer. They may be feeling some frustration or defensiveness. By asking them to say more, their tension will lessen, and they may more calmly present their idea. Second, listen attentively without interrupting. This will often keep the situation from escalating. You may learn something about the idea that you can respond positively to. and the person may then be more open to hearing your ideas or rebuttals. Third, explain your perspective. Present your opinion as objectively and clearly as you can, explaining why it differs. When possible, try to link your rationale to the opinions that have already been discussed and avoid judgment. And fourth, use open-ended questions to clarify your understanding or the understanding of others without challenging the opinion. Particularly avoid responding to assumptions. And we'd like to note that NDR does have an excellent webinar specifically on the subject of effective questions. And this can be found on our website at
www.adr.af.mil. And while I'm at it, I'd also like to point out we have a webinar on difficult relationships, which is a good complement to this one. But let's look now at the second kind of destructive, dismissive, and insulting behavior. In this scenario, we just listened to Sergeant Lucero invite someone else to speak without acknowledging Mariah's comment. This happens a lot in fast-paced meetings. Intended or not, it can feel very dismissive, and sometimes it actually is. The speaker may already know the answer they want, may feel no one else has the expertise to comment, or may have a personal issue with that initial speaker. As a peer, you can call time on that yourself, and if it's your remark, you can invite others to speak on your remark or someone else's. Remarks that raise to the level of insult get into an area of damaging behavior that is hostile or even threatening.
Like anyone else, you can call time on abusive behavior. Whether remarks are directed at you or at someone else on the team, you can call it out as inconsistent with the group norms or just inappropriate. For example, Sal, that's not appropriate, and you agree to engage with respect even when you don't agree. You can also call for a break. If others don't agree with a break, you can decide to take one anyway. Try to avoid joining in offline chatter about your teammates. However, you may need to confer with others if the behavior is bad enough to consider options for replacing them.
Di, it looks like we have time to share some of the ideas other participants have had to some of the specific challenges.
It does, and I'm glad we do. You all have such great experiences, and I hope you'll share some stories with us that we can use for our other webinars. So let's start with this question of strong personalities. One of our participants posed this challenge. What if there are a lot of strong personalities on the team, or many difficult behaviors? And here are some of the responses that we got from their peers. Keep trying to use those facilitation techniques. I'm pretty shy, but it usually works when I interrupt someone who's hogging all the airtime. I just say, I want to hear from, and then I identify somebody else on the team. Another response is, I'm going to try that idea that Sergeant Sanchez did, to ask someone else to comment on someone's idea before we move on. And another response, I try to get to know everyone individually, at least those that I can. That really helps. I can call them by name and say, hey, so-and-so, can we get someone else in on this?
That's great, Di. Here's another one, sort of the opposite of what you just talked about. The question was, I'm on a team right now, and a lot of my peers are not really adding anything. We seem to have a lot of introverts or something. Doesn't help that we do most meetings by telecom. I thought there were a couple of really great ideas from the group that I'd like to share. First was, try that idea of creating space. It can really be uncomfortable to hold silence, but that can work. The round robin works too, asking people to speak in turns. Another was that telecom thing is really tricky. When I know most of our meetings will be virtual, I try to get everyone to send me their photo. If we can't do a live video conference, then I post everyone's picture so people know who's talking. And the third was, I was on a team once that was kind of large. We had everyone join a smaller group and then got that group to work on different tasks and report back to the larger group. And I've got one last question here to share. Somebody in a previous seminar asked, it seems like most of the teams I'm on, everyone's just overloaded. They want to help, but meeting after meeting, they simply don't come through. There was some really great feedback on this item too. One of them was, it's tough, but I try not to guilt trip them. We all struggle with the same time crunches. Someone else shared that this happened on a team they were on. Someone just spontaneously asked the group, can we talk about this? She wasn't judging any of us, but wanted us to help each other figure out how we were going to get things done. It was great too. We ended up breaking tasks down to smaller tasks, and then we were able to get them done. I'm really glad we had time to share these comments with you, and we hope you'll share ideas with us too that you've found successful when you've addressed a challenge among your peers on a team. As members of a working group, a team, or any other sort of group that gets together, we often join our peers on a common mission, but one with no hierarchy of leadership. If we're going to make a difference, it's up to us to figure out how to structure our efforts and support each other. We have no official authority to choose who is on the team, decide how we'll work, or hold others accountable for their work or the way they behave. But we can support the team, the mission, and our own sense of satisfaction through our ability to influence our peers. In this webinar, we've proposed 3 areas where you can affect the success of your team through influence. 1, support structured processes by helping to define and contribute to how the team will work. 2, support the team's culture by leveraging your personal style, skill, and techniques to build trust among the team members and adopt ways to support an open exchange of ideas. And finally, mitigate damaging behaviors by using facilitation techniques to help team members talk through differences, including those that are most disruptive or damaging. We hope you've seen that even without authority or hierarchy, you have the ability to influence your peers and affect a more satisfying and productive outcome. Thank you for joining us today. If you're viewing this webinar in connection with a live chat, we'll be sticking around for a few minutes to answer questions. Feel free to continue chatting with us and each other. If you're viewing this webinar without the live chat, or if you have to go, feel free to contact us through our website with any follow-up questions or comments at www.adr.af.mil. Keep in mind that many of these other webinars that we spoke about are able to be accessed by links from our website, and you'll find additional resources and materials that you may find helpful on these topics. Don't forget to download a copy of the slide deck and the one-page quick reference sheet for what we covered here today. We'll also be putting a short 5-question feedback poll up for those attending a live session. Please let us know what you thought and give us ideas for topics you'd like to hear more about in the future. Thanks for watching.